this.
This time. Okay. So we learn the Maimer, first Maimer, Parshas Vayeishev, on page 3. Vayeishev Yaakov beretz Meguri Aviv beretz Canaan. So this parsha begins really the whole episode, all the episodes, and the happenings that brought about the Yaakov Avinu and the Shvatim going down to Mitzrayim, beginning with Yosef, the selling of Yosef, etc., etc. But the parsha first starts off that Yaakov settled. He settled in the land of Meguri Aviv, where his father lived. Yitzchak lived in Eretz Yisrael, or Eretz Canaan. Beretz Canaan. So we see in the pasuk, it seems to be superfluous. Why is the Torah telling us that Yaakov twice in the same pasuk that Yaakov settled in the land where his father lived, which we all know from the previous parshas, he lived in Eretz Yisrael, Eretz Canaan, and then it says again Beretz Canaan. So what's the deeper message here? That the Torah has to repeat it twice, but it doesn't repeat it. It repeats it, but it doesn't call it the same thing. It call it one term it uses is Eretz Meguri Aviv, which is one definition of Eretz Yisrael, and the other one where Yaakov lived, and the other one is Eretz Meguri, and the other one is Eretz Canaan. So why does it repeat both twice? Why does it repeat it twice? So we need to understand. The Alter Rebbe just sometimes he starts off with a question and without clearly articulating the question, but you could see from other places in Chassidus what the question is. And the Alter Rebbe wants to understand what is this idea of Vayeishev, that Yaakov is dwelling in. There's the Avodah we've been learning the last several parshas. We've been learning about the Avodah of the Avis. The Avodah of Avram, the Avodah of Yitzchak, the Avodah of Yaakov. Each one had an Avodah Hashem. Avram is connected with Ava, and Yitzchak is connected with Yira. Yaakov is connected with Tiferes. So each one, we were learning the Chassidish Parsha, what exactly they were involved with. What looks to be a very mundane activity, whether it's Yitzchak digging wells or Yaakov dealing with sheep and building a whole business and a business empire with the sheep of Lavan. Really, all these things represent Aveda Ruchni, is the spiritual Aveda that they were involved with. In Chassidus, and we learned some of those points, elaborates and explains what are those things what was the Aveda that they were doing. So here also we're going into the Avodah of Yaakov. So Vayeishev is also part of the Avodah. Yaakov settled. What is the Avodah? What does that represent? That Yaakov settled in the land of Canaan. And that comes after everything that was going on before, all the Avodah that he was doing with Lavan, with Esav. We learned the Avodah that he did with Lavan, and the Avodah that he did with Esav by Yishlach. So here, Yaakov's settling. So the Alter Rebbe alludes to that question. He says, Lahavin Inyan Zeh. We need to understand, what is this Inyan that Vayeishev Yaakov, that Yaakov is settling in Eretz Meguri Aviv? And the second question, which we mentioned, is also the idea that it says twice, Eretz Meguri Aviv, Eretz Canaan. Twice, Eretz. One, it calls it, we know which land we're talking about. We're talking about the land of Canaan. First it calls it Eretz Megurei Aviv, the land of Megurei Aviv, where his father lived. And then we call it Eretz Canaan. So the Alter Rebbe is going to explain, first the Alter Rebbe is going to explain the idea of Aretz. Aretz means the land. But he's going to explain what that is in a ruchnistic context. What does it mean, the land? Then the Alter Rebbe is going to spend most of the Maimer on the idea of Eretz Canaan. And only afterwards will we get back to the Vayeishev and Eretz Megurei Aviv. Okay, that's the order of things here. So it says, "Ishalech lifnei Hashem ba'aretz hachayim." That I go before Hashem ba'aretz hachayim, in the land of Chaim. So we see in this pasuk that Artzes Achayim, Artzes is plural. Right? Aretz is one, Artzes is plural. So Artzes refers to the minimum of plural is two. So it refers to two levels, two Aratzes, two lands. Sheyesh Shnei Aratzes. What is the Aretz? Shehem Beis Bechinas Kelim La'ashras Chaim Elyenim. So you have Chaim. Chaim is life. And this is the Artzes Achayim. This is the Aretz which contains life. So the Aretz that contains life, so we say Artzes plural, there are two levels of Aretz, which within them is Chaim. In a different Maimer, it says that these two levels of Aretz refer to Gan Eden HaTachten and Gan Eden HaElyon. In the Torah, it says that there was a Nahar. We've had this several times. There was a river that flowed from Eden to water the Gan. The Gan refers to Malchus. The Nahar is Bina. Eden is Chachma. So that really encompasses all the 10 spheres. The Nahar Yetzim Eden Lahashkis is Agan. The Gilui of Chachma in the Gan is really, that's what Gan Eden is. The Gan of Eden. The Gan which there is revealed, the Eden, the Chachma, Gilui Alikus. But within Gan Eden, within that level of Gilui, so you have two. In Sfarim, it talks about two levels. You have a higher level, which is called Gan Eden HaElyon, and you have a lower level, Gan Eden HaTachten. So in general, this is the two aratzes that we're talking about. It says, Artzois HaChaim, these are two levels of Aretz, two levels of Malchus. So it comes out, Eretz is a keli, is a vessel, a recipient, for within that framework, you have a gilui, a revelation of Eden, and that gilui in general is encompassing two distinct levels. One is a higher level of Aretz, Gan Eden HaElyon, and the lower level of Aretz, Gan Eden HaTachten. So in order to understand this better, this idea of Eretz, which Eretz is a keli for Chaim. So the Alter Rebbe first starts with the second Eretz in the pasuk, Eretz Canaan. Why is Eretz Yisrael, which is Eretz, the land of Yisrael? Yisrael is a unique name that shows on a very distinct level, which we find in last week's parsha. Yaakov is called Yisrael, right? Even though the Torah continues to call him Yaakov as well. But his unique name is Yisrael. And he's called Yisrael because he overcame Esav, he overcame his challenges. He's called Yisrael. But why? So Eretz Yisrael would seem to be the appropriate name. Why do we find in the whole Torah it's not called Eretz Yisrael, it's called Eretz Canaan? Varicham Havi Canaan. Cham was the father of Canaan, which means that Canaan's lineage is not very chashuv, not very important to say the least. His father was Cham. Cham was the child of Noach. Cham was cursed. As we know, we learned in Parshas Noach. So, why? What's the yichus? What's the praise of Eretz Yisrael that we're calling it Eretz Canaan? This second question that is in parentheses is really the key to understanding, is the key to the answer. It says in the pasuk, Canaan. What is Canaan? Canaan refers to a merchant. And it says, as the pasuk says in Isaiah, that Canaan biyadi mazni mirma. The Canaan, the merchant, has in his hand a mazni mirma, a scale of deceit. Meaning, Canaan is a merchant, he's involved in business. So we're asking this in the parentheses. We're asking the question: what does it mean? How does that connect with the idea of Canaan, which is really what the Alter Rebbe is going to explain? That is what Canaan represents, as we'll soon see. Gam Asher Kasuv, another pasuk we find in Tanakh, which also describes what Canaan is. It says in Zechariah, "V'layiyeh Chanani oid b'veis Hashem tzvakos b'yom hahu." That when Mashiach comes, lo yeh Kanani oid. There's not going to be any more a merchant in the house of Hashem. Before there will be, and then when Mashiach comes, there's not going to be any more a merchant. So hine neida shekol haTorah kula nidreshes b'zeh u'mazeh. The Torah deals with polar opposites. Zeh u'mazeh. Shlomo HaMelech says, Zeh u'mazeh salikim. So the Eibishter made whatever Hashem made in holiness. There's in Klippa. Whatever's in Klippa, there's in holiness. There's their counterpart. And we found we've learned already many times the idea of Lavan, the way Lavan is in Kedusha, the way Lavan is in Klippa. Esav, the way Esav is in Kedusha, the way Esav is in Klippa, etc. So the same is true as well, and this is what the Alter Rebbe is going to explain. The same is true with Cham. Cham also has the way he is in Klippa, which we know he was cursed, meaning it's a very Cham in Klippa refers to passion. One's passion in doing doing averis, doing what the Eibusher doesn't want, but the Cham in Kedusha is Gvura. Gvura in holiness, that that is from one side of the spectrum, and that's the zeh, l'uma zeh. So that's in kedusha, and then you have the chum in klipa refers to the passion, the gvura, the passion of doing averos. Just like you have love and an Esav in klipa, so too you have the three pare, had three ministers. You had the Sarat Tabachim, Sarah Mashkim, and Sarah Ephim. Sarah Tabachim either means, Rashi says, that was Petifar, used to take care of all the meat. All the meat came, it was the, what do they call it, where they prepare all the meat for the king. Butcher. Yeah, butcher, but it was like a factory where all of it came from. The athletes, right? Athletes. Anyway, that's all the meat came from there, and Petifra was in charge of that. And then you have Sarah Mashkim, the one who was the chief that took care of all the drink, and then you have Sarah Ephim, which we call a butler, and Sarah Ephim is the baker, the chief baker. So these also, the Torah talks about them as part of the story where Yosef is remembered, right? But they represent levels in Kedusha also. So the Alter Rebbe doesn't go into each one of these specifically. He just tells us that there is Zelu Umase. You have two extremes, the way it is in Kedusha and the way it is in Klipa. V'hine shloisha b'nei Noach also, which we want to get to because we want to talk about Chum. So Hem l'mayla b'Kedusha, Gimel b'chinas gavnei keshes. So they refer to the three shades, three colors in the rainbow. In Kedusha, Chiver Sumak Yarik, which is the white, red, and yellow or green, that refers to, Alter Rebbe calls it here, he says Noach, and in different Maimer, the Mitzvah Rebbe says Noach was the Yisod Abba, was Chachma. And the three sons of Noach, Shem, Cham, and Yafes, they refer to the Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, which was produced from Noach, which stems from Noach, from Chachma. But that's in Kedusha. But so what happened to Chum? Chum becomes the father of Canaan. Chum, the physical Chum, becomes the father of Canaan. What's the Canaan? So from Chum is Gvura. Gvura becomes Gvura in Kedusha becomes a Gvura of Klippa. But what is the Gvura? He's the father of Canaan. What's Canaan in Kedusha? So hine Canaan Pirushe Seicher. So the Canaan, which we alluded to already before from the Psukim in Tanakh, Canaan refers to a merchant. Kameshakasav, as it says in the Pasuk, Kananeha nich b'deyaretz. So Kananeha refers to the merchants are nich b'deyaretz, are the important citizens of the land. That's how the pasuk refers to them. What we're taking from this pasuk is the definition of Canaan means a merchant. Uchsiv, and another pasuk which we mentioned before, Canaan biyadei mazni mirma. So in his hand, in the hand of the Canaan, of the merchant, you have mazni mirma, you have a scale of deceit. So what's the connection between a merchant and Kedusha? So Hainu derech mashal, just like a merchant. Sheyifazir mamin kesev izov. He scatters. What does a merchant do? He scatters gold and silver. He scatters his money. And he takes them out of the money from his possession. Kidei la'arviach u'leistake, in order that he should have a reward as a result of that. He invests a certain amount of money and then to get a return. Or as it says in a different maimer, we understand this better when a person plants wheat, right? That's a staple, bread. So what do you plant the seeds, the kernels of wheat. So you could have used them to make flour. You could have used them to make bread. So obviously, if you're taking one seed, one kernel of wheat, and you're planting it to produce one kernel of wheat, that's foolishness. Eat it. Why are you destroying your food in order to make another one? Right? If you consume it, Elamai, obviously, this is clear, that you're taking one, you're destroying one in order to make many. So too, the idea of investment, nobody invests $1 to get $1. Besides the fact that it makes no sense, but when you're investing it, you don't know what's going to be on the other side of that investment. So you can lose it. So here we're saying the idea of Canaan in Ruchnius is he's investing in order that it should be to make a profit. So there's two stages there. There's a stage of when he's investing. When he's in the stage of investing, so now, what is it doing to the person? He's now in a state of pizur hanefesh. His nefesh is scattered. In other words, he's not feeling the bliss and the pleasure and the tranquility, because everything lies on how the investment what's gonna happen with the investment. And only afterwards does he come, when it comes back to him, is he now going to be in a state of tainug, in a state of pleasure, in a state of a state of peace, right? A state of tranquility. But he has to go through that process until that happens. Same thing happens with when one sows seed in the ground. So at first it goes through a period where that seed is lost, it decomposes, and only then does it produce. Hazerim bedima. When you seed, you say before benching in Shir Amalas. Hazerim bedima, you seed with tears. Why is it tears? Because you're getting rid of, you have the food in your hand, but now you're putting it in the ground. So it's painful. It's painful because you're giving it away. You don't know what's going to happen. But berina, with joy, you harvest. In other words, after it produces. So that's the process of Canaan. That's the process of going through the stages where you stand to gain much more than you invested. What was the kavana to be mefazer, to scatter? That he should make a profit. So this idea, this is the neshama coming down into this world, also in the same vein, in the same process where the neshama was lamayla, the neshama was in its state of bliss, where it was basking in the divine presence, where it had the idea of love and fear. It had a lot of pleasure in Shemayim. He was involved. It was connected with Hashem. And what the neshama comes down lamata in order to what? Also the idea, this same process where it's scattered, the money or the food, right, is being lost momentarily, but through that it's there to have to collect a big profit. This the Alter Rebbe says is both on an individual level and also on a micro and a macro. In an individual level, the individual neshama, when the neshama descends below into the world, that's one aspect. And then you have it on a bigger level when you have in general that the Yidden were sent into Galus. The Jews went to Galus. It says, why did they go to Galus? Lahoisiv aleim gerim, to get more gerim, either gerim, the converts in the simple understanding, or in the spiritual understanding, that all the sparks that came down, that were in all these places, so they were elevated. The only way to do that is to go there and to collect them. So this idea, this is the same concept, the same dynamic of a soicher, of a merchant who's investing in order to reap this reward, this profit. Beautiful. Let's see inside. So in Galus, he's likened to this seicher, to this merchant. You have different. There's different parts here, different aspects here to this dynamic of a seicher. The general idea we said was you're investing, you're taking a risk in order to have a profit. That's the simple. There's another aspect where when someone's involved in business, there's a certain amount of cunningness that he has to have in order to make this profit. If a person comes along and starts telling everybody where he buys his wares, and then he tells everybody, you can get over there for cheaper, etc. So obviously nobody's going to purchase from him. They're going to go there. There's a certain amount of smarts that one needs, which is we're calling it mirma. Now, mirma can mean, in a negative way, can mean deceit, but deceit in a trickery. But over here, we don't necessarily mean it in that extreme, but a certain sense of cunningness, of sharpness, of smarts that one needs in order to develop, in order to do the business thing, the business deals that he has. That's a second point. A third point is that in order to fully benefit from the business that he's doing, so he has to put himself in it. He has to, like it says by Yaakov Avinu, so when he got the brachas, so he had to wear Esav's clothing. He had to put himself in Esav's clothing in order to go down there, to go to that place, and from there receive the brachas. The Eibishter made in such a way that the others, it calls in the pasuk in Keheles, it says Esa sheshala ta'adam ba'adam. You have two levels of Adam. You have Adam of Kedusha, and you have Adam of Klippa. And Hashem allows temporarily the Adam of Klippa to rule over the Adam of Kedusha, or the way it is when we go into Galus. So it appears that we're being, that the Shlita, that we're being overpowered by Adam of Klippa within wherever we are in exile. But the point of the Shalat Adam Ba'Adam is L'Ra'alei. It's to his detriment. It's only that we should be able to go into that place in order to collect all the sparks that are there. A mashal of this, not in a business sense, but in a more something that we see a lot more common when we talk about education. In order to educate a child, you have to go to the student. You have to go into his place and to see how he sees things, how he understands things, and only there can you stand to teach and educate him that he should be able to benefit. If the teacher remains aloof, above, and he doesn't give himself over to the student and reach him in his space, then he's not going to be able to have an effect on him. It's a different effect, a different dynamic. It could be a king, it could be a ruler, but not a teacher. A teacher, to transform the student where he is, he needs to go into the place where he is, and only there can he have an effect. The same is true with the nefesh elikis and the nefesh habahamis. The nefesh elikis, and this was the third point of this dynamic of a merchant. The nefesh elikis goes into the body of the nefesh, or into the nefesh habahamis, and it's to his detriment. Meaning that the way the nefesh elikis, imagine the nefesh elikis and his experiences, his bliss, his awareness and enjoyment that the nefesh elikis, a godly soul, has with Hashem, nothing else. There's nothing else in the world. But it goes into the nefesh habahamis, into an animal soul. All of a sudden, he has to be dealing with animalistic things, physical things, mundane things, and only through there is he able to, and kulei haiva ulai. In other words, like it says, the ways are when one travels, he could be it's a danger. When the kol hadrachim b'derech sakana, it's a danger to go. Nobody knows what's going to happen. That's why we say tefillas haderech when we go on the way. So all of this happens. The nefesh elikis is coming down, and hopefully it will succeed in accomplishing its goal. But the only way that it can have a true effect, a lasting effect, a transformational effect, is only when it goes down into the body, into the mud, into the nefesh habahamis, within the world of the nefesh habahamis, and also and try to have an effect. And that's the idea of a soicher. So Eretz Canaan, just to finish that point, Eretz Canaan is, why do we call it Eretz Canaan? Seemingly it would be better to describe it Eretz Yisrael, because Eretz Canaan is indicative, describes this process of going down into the, like a merchant, going down into the mud, and there elevating, finding all the sparks and all the potential that lies within it, and elevates it. After it becomes elevated, after that transformation, then it's called Eretz Yisrael. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. You were mentioning that in order to do business, you have to have cunningness and sharpness. Cunningness sounds negative, something that counts about a person. Sharpness is a beautiful thing.
Cunning.
I don't know that you need to have cunningness.